and Waterfront Committee meeting.
Sorry, Felice, could you give it a second? I'm still getting the streaming up.
Oh, sure. And then if I can share my screen when we're ready to get going.
Yes, of course. Okay, you can get started now.
Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July Parks and Waterfront Committee. We're happy to have you today. I'm Felice Farber. I am co-chair of the Parks and Waterfront Committee with Judy Schneider. I'd like to welcome everybody today. We are going to be discussing with Steve Simon, the Chief of Staff to the Manhattan Borough Commissioner at the Department of Parks and Recreation. I will be discussing the capital and expense budget priorities for the community as part of the district needs statement process. So, Will, do you want to add anything or should we get started?
Yeah, I would just add that if anybody would like to participate, they can find the reactions icon at the bottom of their screen, and they can find the raise hand button, and that is how you'll be recognized to participate. Otherwise, you guys can get going.
Terrific. Let me share my PowerPoint.
You can share your screen now.
Okay. And can you see it, or is it just?
Not yet.
Okay. So share screen.
And I have the PowerPoint too, if you need me to.
Okay, great. So welcome, Steve. Just
thank you for inviting me.
Just briefly, and just a quick overview. I'm sure most people know this, but just in case, the district needs statement is one of the few items for the community board that is mandated by the New York City Charter. And it is an annual statement of the community district needs and community board budget requests. It gets submitted every October, and then the agencies respond to it. It feeds into and this feeds into the city's overall budget document. So we're getting a head start on this. I go through some of the descriptions that we have in this, but because Steve has limited time, I'd like to jump to what we've had for our capital and expense requests. Some of it is kind of outdated, but I'd like to go through what our priorities are and get Steve's input on this as well. This is what we had in the district needs statement for fiscal year 23. These were our capital requests, and so these are items that we can update. The numbers on the long side, 5 of 18, 10 of 18, etc., refers to just the priority order that was in the community board's district needs statement. And Judy, obviously, feel free to chime in at any point. So we had in the capital request for 23, provide funding to repair, restore, and design the entire Esplanade from 60th Street to 125th Street, install below ground infrastructure, provide funding to design and renovate Rupert Park, which we now have. So that's really exciting news. Provide funding to redesign and renovate John Jay Park as a whole. Installed tree guards were missing, which I understand tree guards are not something that the Parks Department does, but they install trees. So when you have the list up here, Steve, I'd love to get your input on what are the capital items that are within the Parks Department priorities? What are other things that we could be putting in here? I'd like your feedback on these issues.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Let me first say that we do install tree guards, but there's a a little wrinkle here that we can use capital funding to install tree guards for trees that are up to 2 years old. But then we can use expense budget monies for tree guards for all other trees. We have a program within the Parks Department in which people can purchase tree guards, and council members can certainly allocate funding for them. When they allocate funding for new trees, many of them include a proviso that it should also encompass the installation of tree guards. And we can also accept expense budget money from council members for tree guards for the older trees, or people, block associations, individuals, tenant associations can also purchase tree guards through our program.
Steve, are trees and tree guards, do they come under capital or do they come under the expense budget?
Well, trees are capitally funded, and tree guards for newly planted trees or trees that are up to 2 years old, those could also be paid for with capital funds. So a tree guard that you want to put on a tree that's older than 2 years can only be paid for through expense budget funds.
And you said there's a Parks Department program for this. How would we find out more about the Parks program?
Well, I can send you some material. We have a selection of different types of tree guards. I think I don't know, it could be as many as 8 or 10 different styles of tree guards that can be purchased for different at different cost levels, price levels. You can get tree guards that have. I think basically at this point we only do tree guards that are 3-sided, so that they're open alongside the curb.
Okay, great.
If I could also begin the discussion by saying I want to acknowledge what Councilmember Menon has done for us in the FY23 capital budget. She did a wonderful job for us. She came up with $4 million for the new comfort station in Rupert Park. She came up with $1 million for work at John Jay for the. I'm hoping to use it to repave the central walkway and provide an accessible entrance into the multi-purpose play area. And in her participatory budgeting, she came up, it was voted on that we would get $300,000 to do some path work in Carl Schurz Park. So this was a nice chunk of funding that we got through Councilmember Menon. And I don't know if she has anybody listening in, but I certainly want her to know how much we appreciate what she did for us in the new budget.
Well, we did invite her to come tonight to tell us that was going to be the first thing to tell everybody about this, but she's out of town with her son tonight.
Okay.
So thank you for filling in.
Okay.
Steve, I do really appreciate you bringing that up, because this was phenomenal what she did in getting additional funding for this critical park projects in the neighborhood, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah. So in terms of you are requesting any more money for Rupert Park, it's no longer needed. I'm almost astonished to be able to say that, but between Councilmember Kalos and now Councilmember Menon, we have enough funding to do everything we wanted to do in this park. So I would not list it as one of your budget priorities. Maybe you want to list it as for continued support, since the project is yet to be undertaken. We're advancing. We're still in the design process. We have to do the contract documents that are needed for the bidding process. We're scheduled to complete those documents in October, and hopefully by the beginning of the year we can put the project out for bid. And in maybe in the fall of the next year, will be in construction at Rupert Park. The comfort station, of course, now that is a little bit behind the rest of the park. And I'm hoping that we'll start the design work on that this coming fall.
So Steve, since the plan right now is to do it as two separate construction projects or two separate items, does the design as we had requested for the base park include the core infrastructure and plumbing that would be required for the comfort station?
I believe that it does, but I will have to confirm that because that certainly makes sense.
Yeah, I would hate to construct the park and then have to go back and rip it out to put.
No. We will shoot the architect if that happens. I'm sorry. 1 second. That was a joke. I'm sorry, I forgot this is being live streamed and recorded. But please, that was a joke. The architect has been doing a masterful job here. We love the architect. Oh my God. I gotta watch what I say.
Okay, great. If we could just confirm that.
We will confirm it.
Okay, terrific. Thanks.
Okay.
And so you mentioned John Jay Park. I know that the Parks Department, in the response to the district needs statement last year, said you were not supportive of rebuilding all of John Jay Park. So can you tell us a little bit about what the priorities are for the Parks Department for John Jay Park, and then if you wouldn't mind just repeating what the funding was for?
Yeah, well, I'm the one who sends in those responses, so you can hold me responsible for them. So I don't see how, I didn't see any reason why we needed to rebuild the playground area, the pool, the bathhouse. I mean, I should take a look at the multi-purpose play area where we have the basketball courts and the tennis courts set up. Maybe that needs some work. I'm not sure. But I've been looking mostly at the central walkway where we have a lot of cracked pavement. And I wanted to try to beautify that area. And at the same time, I wanted to provide an accessible entrance into what we call the multi-purpose play area. So that's been my priority. When I saw what you were asking for, it seemed like it was you were asking for way more than what would be needed.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we also had phase 3 of Andrew Haswell Green Park. So
yes.
I guess this comes through. Does this come through EDC funding or the Parks Department?
Well, if it happens the way the other projects have happened, the funding will originate with the Parks Department, and we will probably if we will probably transfer to them in some way. I think you can keep it as a Parks Department item.
But Steve, don't we didn't now, because Rupert was the main park that really needed to be done with big bucks. The layout that Stantec did as part of the East Midtown Greenway, Andrew Haswell Green Phase 2B, they did a layout for the interior. And in talking with Michael Bradley, there was something like a $25 million number attached to that.
I think it was at least 30.
Okay, so probably over the years it's gone up.
Yes.
So I think starting in the next fiscal year, don't we have to go to our elected officials and start asking for money and accumulating it the way we did with the past projects?
Well, and I think the way you begin that process is by listing it as one of your community board budget requests. I think it should be on your list so that you can point to it.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, I think that Felice and I should, once we know Rupert is going and we get near the next fiscal year, I think we should start talking to all of our electeds and saying that's the next big project that needs support.
Well,
as well as the Esplanade always needs support.
well, I think, the Esplanade is now pretty well funded. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but, in the last budget, I believe we got around 250 million more for the Esplanade. We have substantial funding, and EDC still has to, I don't think they've hired their design consultant yet. And, I don't, we don't know yet how much more money might be needed, or if we even need any more money. When we last told OMB what we needed, they gave us what we told them we needed. So until EDC comes back to us now and says, maybe if they do come back to us and say that the design consultant found that that more money might be needed, I would hesitate to say right now that I don't know whether we need any more money right now.
Okay, well, we just got, Felice, I assume you got it, an email. If not, I'll send it to you. They finally hired somebody to take Will Fisher's spot for our part of the Esplanade and at EDC, a woman. And I got the email today. I haven't had time to respond to it, but I will call and speak with her and introduce ourselves and see if we can set up some kind of meeting. I think Felice is working on setting up a meeting maybe with the electeds and EDC and parks and whatever to go over that. But
well, I think the appropriate time would be when they have a design consultant on board, which hopefully will be fairly soon.
They're out to bid and just in the final selection process on the design consultant?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, well, maybe Felice, when we talk to this new woman, we can find out some more.
Okay, great.
But I would still leave it on there as our number one request. I don't know how the others feel, but when we get into discussion.
And so we have Queensborough Oval here. I think we talked about taking that out because it doesn't seem like anything is going to happen and it's not a priority. Steve, what's your feedback on that?
Well, we vented into a, I don't have all the details in front of me. We entered into, I think, at least a 10, maybe even a 15-year concession agreement with the operator there. We made a variety of changes to respond to community requests and to open up more free time for the public there. I haven't heard any complaints about Queensborough Oval in quite some time. So I'm under the impression that it's been running pretty well, and that we've been able to accommodate more people from the public who were just using, I think, the regular Parks Department tennis permits, that they don't have to join the operation there or become members, whatever. I think they can just walk in and show their Parks Department permit, and there are still, as I understand it, free youth programs being offered there as well.
Okay, so we can, so that's dated and we can take that out.
Felice, just one thing, as a resident of the East 60s who has to look at that tennis bubble all the time, is there any way, Steve, you can get them to clean it? They haven't cleaned it in years and it's dirty.
Well, let me pass that on.
And I'm sure that's part of their contract.
Well, I'm not intimately familiar with it, but it could very well be. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
In the description of the parks needs, we talk about Seabury Park, which I think is on Lexington and 95th Street.
Yes.
I have not been up there recently. What is the condition of the park, and are there plans for doing capital work for in that park?
Well, no, there are no immediate plans for capital work, but we do feel as though the area on the north side where the play equipment is due for a renovation. And you know, there's some of that equipment has fallen on hard times, let's say. So if you could put that on your list, I think that would be that would certainly be a good idea. And the park house, I think we would love to also renovate the park house.
Okay,
The large open area, which maybe some people call it the schoolyard. In Parks Department parlance, it's the multi-purpose play area. That's in pretty good condition, and that comprises most of the space there. But the play equipment area could use a renovation.
okay, great, thanks. So if you don't mind, we'll go to people who have questions about or comments on the capital needs. So I think, I can't quite see it the way I have it laid out. I think the first person up is Rita.
I'll tell you, Felice, before you go to Rita, and I certainly want to hear from Rita, but I would just ask that maybe you give some consideration to adding to your list a couple of other things that
Sure.
at 24 Sycamores Playground, we redid I think the upper portion with the comfort station and the spray shower and maybe the swing area. But the area with the play equipment and the basketball court, that could use a renovation. So if you could add 24 Sycamores Playground. At Stanley Isaacs Playground on the south side of 96th Street, we have a hockey rink and some play equipment. That section could also use a renovation. I'd like to get some money to redo the basketball court at Carl Scherz Park.
Steve, is this all capital, what you're
Yes.
giving us, like
Yes.
basketball equipment?
Yes. No, not equipment. The court itself.
Oh,
The pavement, the basketball stanchion, the hoops.
Anything else?
Well, well, thank you for asking. At St. Catherine's Park, although we're getting a lot of money because of the blood center deal, I still have to run the numbers, and I don't think I still think I need some money to redo the comfort station.
Okay.
No, I think they've given us.
Steve, are you saying in addition to all the money that's going to be given if this goes through? Because right now it's in the court, so we don't.
That's true too. Yeah.
But you're saying,
okay, I'm assuming at the moment that we actually get the 10.
You're saying that 10 million isn't enough to include the comfort station, including the money that Kalos gave before?
Yeah. Well, well, as I mentioned, I conditioned it by saying I haven't run all the numbers yet, but I think if we renovate the entire playground, which is apparently what we are now committed to doing as part of that agreement, and as well as the multi-purpose play area, again, the large open area, that may eat up much of that money, and what remains may not be enough to do the comfort station.
Okay.
And then at Tramway Plaza, Judy, I'm not sure you've heard of that park. At Tramway Plaza, besides your fountain, we would still like to put in some irrigation for the plantings.
And there's no money left at Tramway? It's all been spent?
I have $50,000.
Well, that won't do much for anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's my list.
Okay, thank you. And this was helpful. And if I can just briefly just mention the items that we had on the expense request, and then we can jump right back to
Right.
an overall discussion. On the expense side, we talked about preserving funding for year-round workers and associate parks workers, increased funding for additional roving park maintenance staff, tree pruners, tree climbers, funding for exterminators in all parks in the district, funding for Pep officers, and install new trees where missing. I think based on conversations we've had before that Pep officers might get a higher priority because I know there's a big concern about security. And certainly an issue about lifeguards since we haven't been able to open the pool for lap swimming at John Jay Park. But are there issues or concerns you see within this list or other items that you think should be there?
Well, I like them all. Certainly, I appreciate the emphasis on the year-round workers, and there's a little bit of an overlap between the maybe the first two items because the roving parks, maintenance staff, tree pruners, tree climbers, many of those should also be year-round staff. So you may be able to just, maybe able to combine those two. And certainly, we would support additional Pep officers. Now the new trees item, again, you should move that to your capital list.
Okay. And the lifeguard issue, that's being handled citywide as opposed to just this community. I read that the mayor was increasing the hourly wages for lifeguards.
Yes. Yeah, well, my understanding is that may be maybe a one-year deal at this point. They may have to go back and renegotiate, but at this point, for subsequent years. But at this point, the pay was raised to around maybe $19.50 an hour. I think it's similar to what's now the state level for lifeguards, and we have it has had some impact. We have been able to hire, and we're continuing to hire more lifeguards. I mean, at John Jay, we have sufficient lifeguards to open up the entire pool, which unfortunately is not the case with all of our pools. But John Jay has been 100% open.
And but they don't have enough lifeguards to add in lap swimming.
Right. Yeah. None of the extra programs that we've had in the past. We can't handle any of the extra ones because we're still way short of the lifeguards that we need.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. So why don't we go to the folks that have their hands raised? And since I can't see the list the way I have this laid out, if folks can help out, I think Rita was first.
Yeah, Rita's first, and then a person named Marco, and then Barbara Rudder.
Okay, great.
Steve,
that's Marco tomorrow. Sorry.
Steve, I want you to know how happy I am about Rupert Park. I'm sure you understand that. I just want to understand when we started, when you and I started with Rupert Park, I thought we had $8.9 million. And then I heard Julie Menon say that you got an additional $4 million.
Well, it's I think the first number that you quoted. Give me a second. Please do that. That's good. Let everyone's feeling well. That's very. Well, last year at this time, we had 5.2 million.
That was from Kalos.
Yeah, which yeah, basically from Kalos.
We got money from Liz
and-
Kruger.
And then the council projected another 2.7 would be allocated in FY '23. Now, instead of getting 2.7,
We got 4.
we ended up getting 4 million. So if you add the 4 to the 5.2, the total now is over 9 million.
Okay. And we also got 250,000 from Dan Court.
Yes, but actually we're still in the process of doing the paperwork to claim that funding.
But you will get it.
I assume so. Yes, eventually.
Also, Rita, excuse me for interrupting. Didn't we get some money from, or is that included already, from Adams, the council speaker?
Well, I mean, Julie Menon worked with the speaker. The $4 million is basically coming from both the council member and the speaker. The two of them working together. I mean, my understanding is that the council member took $500,000 out of her allotment, and then working with the speaker, got the speaker to add in another $3.5 million.
And didn't we get money from Liz Kruger and from Carolyn Maloney?
No.
They didn't come with.
No, but that's, I mean, we don't need it. I mean, it's, I mean, we're in very good shape.
Are you concerned about the impact of material price escalation on how much money you have available?
No,
Well, our estimates are based on anticipated cost escalations. So I'm hoping that our architects have accounted for that.
yeah,
Okay, sorry for interrupting, Rita.
I tell you why I ask, and I believe that pigs go hungry, but that if there was that much more money in there, that we would have 2 comfort stations instead of 1.
Oh, no.
And so I just want you to know, I can't thank you enough for the work that you have done on this. I can't wait for it to start. And according to, I forget the woman who works with you, she said they expected shovel in the ground in the fall of '23.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. That's my prediction. But listen, now that I'm looking at my budget chart, I think we have even more money than I said.
That's why I asked this question.
Yeah, I
Which had more money than you said.
I think we may have had, I'm gonna have to go back and redo these numbers. We had more than 5.2 last year,
Right.
but I give me a chance to go over these numbers, but
Because
yeah,
I remember you saying that we don't start until we have all the money.
yes, oh yeah, no, that we're not allowed to begin the design process until all the money is in hand.
Right.
But we have, I didn't, that 5.2 did not include some money we had from the borough president, and did not include some other funding. So I have to get back to you. We have a heck of a lot of money. Let me put it that way.
I look forward to that. And
Okay.
it gets better every time, Steve. Thank you.
Well, I'm looking forward to a park that actually works.
Well, we all know this wasn't built by New York City Parks Department,
Right. No,
and it became a park. But Steve, if you could get us that number, Felice and I could put it into the minutes.
yeah. Let me get back to you. I don't want to give you wrong information.
Judy, am I still unmuted?
Yep.
I remember when I first came on the board, when Laura Mayer was co-chair, along with Peggy, I think it was, that I love that. Oh yeah, the person who represented the New York City Parks Department at those meetings had told, I said, what did you do? And I live across the street from there with Rupert Park. What was this idea? And she said it was the worst contractor they ever had, and they would never have them again. And I'm thinking, that's great. We're stuck with them for 25 years or this. So Judy, it was the Parks Department that did have something to do with Rupert Park.
I'm not so sure about that. I thought it was built by HPD or some other.
Yes, it was. It was Rita, David, why can't I think? Rosenstein this was his issue when he joined Community Board 8 many years ago. And it was built, the background was, it was built by HPD, not Parks. So that's why you've got the terrible structure that you've got.
I truly wish that Dave could see this.
No, don't we all? He
Yeah.
would be so happy right now.
He really would be. And Steve and Police and Judy, thank you very much. I'm a very happy person. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Marco?
Thank you, Felice and Judy. Steve, I have to say thank you for your job. I think you have a lot of job to do. You have a lot of money, so you have plenty time to enjoy working a lot.
Oh, I don't have enough money.
Well, you didn't ask.
But I hope
You say I have enough money. Said, oh,
I know I don't have enough. I hope you're not suggesting otherwise.
no. The issue, that's exactly my concern. Right now, the inflation is rampant. You are unable to hold the prices. So how do you expect to deal with that? That will be my first question. And because it's not up to you, it's basically you establish some prices and then the inflation, they will kill the numbers. That is the one. The second one is, as an architect, usually when I file for an alteration 1 to change the CO to go alteration beyond the 30%, it is required to provide 1 tree in front of the property every 25 feet, or to contribute to the city. Where is going that money, and can you put in our community that money, those trees? Because we really need in the avenues a lot of trees. And I think it's extremely helpful, especially for the heat effect island. In our community, we have serious problems of the quality of the air, and trees is the key to resolve this issue. And so in that matter, do you have any plans? Can we follow up with you? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, we certainly, you don't have to convince us about the value of trees.
Oh, yeah. I know that. I'm sorry.
That's one of the things that we specialize in.
Yeah.
And we certainly have plans this year to plant, I forget how many thousands of trees. And I'm sure that we'll be planting some trees in Community Board 8. I can probably find out where we're planting them, but and I'll see if I can send you that list. But we have a fall planting season coming up, and I'm sure that that we'll be doing a number of trees in Board 8. And in past years, I don't know, in connection with the Second Avenue Subway project, we planted a lot of trees. We also, we had to compensate for the removal of trees, but we then I think more than made up for it by planting trees all over your district. So we'll be continuing to do that. Now, the requirements that developers have when they're putting up buildings, it was a zoning requirement, I believe. So it's a legal requirement. Let's put it that way. That they either plant trees on their property as part of the project, or else pay money to us,
right,
or to plant trees elsewhere in the immediate vicinity, or they can plant them, or they can plant those trees themselves elsewhere in that community. So the point of that law was to make sure that any development in New York City includes includes the addition of trees. So that was a very good law.
Very good law, and I'm very happy to hear that. And thank you, Steve. Thank you for your answer. The final question is, I said, is how you expect to deal with inflation? That will kill you a lot of projects.
Well, I guess we have to consult with maybe the head of the Federal Reserve. But I listen. As I mentioned, it's very hard to predict what and especially in the current atmosphere, what the bids will look like when they come in. And we certainly have this the Rupert Park project is certainly very well funded, and I'm certainly
I'm very happy to hear that.
I'm certainly hoping that there'll be more than enough money to award the contract once the bids come in.
Thank you for your answer, and thank you so much. And good to see you, Steve. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Steve. Barbara.
Hi. Thanks, Steve, everything else. I have two, I think, going to be quick comments. I just read the borough president's notice about public bathrooms. I assume it's not under your umbrella, the bathrooms that I think are still closed in Central Park. That would be the Conservancy, or can you nudge them to open the bathrooms in Central Park?
Well, everything in Central Park is still under the jurisdiction of the New York City Parks Department.
Okay.
Was there a press release issued by the borough president that mentioned?
Yeah, I just got it today. Another one. He had a big rally about bathrooms.
Right. And does it?
No, it's public bathrooms generally, but talk about the Rupert Park and reading this. I had just finished reading it when I got on here.
But which ones in Central Park are closed?
I know by the Oval there was one closed, because without going into too much detail, I would have loved to have used it. And the last I heard, I think there's one open by the boathouse, and there's always a line 20 miles long there.
Well, there are some bathrooms in. The Central Park Conservancy, I think, does a fairly good job of maintaining their bathrooms. There are a couple of bathrooms, at least in the park, that are required to be maintained by concessionaires.
Okay, maybe there was some. I thought because of COVID. I know they closed during COVID.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but now they I think they all should be open.
Okay,
but maybe
they're getting there. Okay.
If you find out otherwise, send me an email and I'll follow up.
I will do it another just a very quick thing. I'm just dittoing what Judy said about the Oval. It is very dirty. It's an eyesore. So I was going to say it, and Judy said it very well. So
all right,
that's
I'll follow up on that tomorrow.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I'm sorry.
I just said thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. Three quick things about the Esplanade. First of all, we know from experience that if you remember when we first got started with the Esplanade, in 1 year, the amount that it was costing was astronomically more, like shockingly more. Is there any way of speeding up when we can start doing the work so that we don't find out that we can't do the work because we don't have enough?
We've been waiting a long time to get permits from the Army Corps of Engineers to do the next phase of work, which in your area, I believe is at 62nd to 63rd Street, 76th to 77th Street,
right,
90th to 94th Streets. And I think the last I heard, and I'm sorry, I have to get back to you and confirm this. I think the last thing I heard is that we're going to proceed now towards the procurement process. We're going to move towards bidding these things out in anticipation of getting the permits, rather than still holding on to the contract documents, waiting and for the permits. I think, I guess we're hopeful that the permits will finally come through at the point at which we have to go. We would be ready to go into construction so that we want to have everything ready for that point.
Thank you.
So-
That's fantastic, because you remember the old days when
Yeah.
all of a sudden, and I always feel like it's a rat running after its tail, because as soon as we get the procurement, there's not enough money, so we have to start all over again. And
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's not that we've had to start all over again. It's that there have been 2 or 3 points in the along the timeline where we thought we were getting a huge amount of money, 75 million. And then maybe we got another 95 or 110. And I kept thinking, oh, that's fantastic. We now have all the money we need. And then it turned out we needed, another couple
yeah,
of hundred
we had to go
million.
begging again, right?
I mean, it's unbelievable the extent to which the Esplanade has been deteriorating, and the cost that, the enormous cost of restoring it.
That's right. And the one on 94th is particularly difficult. Okay, one other question I have. I remember pre-COVID, so how many years when Ben was still in office, that he came, Brearley School was asking for, I think, $1 million or more to fix mostly their area. I voted for it very reluctantly. They were going to give us some potted plants and do some, nothing
I'm
has
sorry,
been done.
where is this?
Brearley School, do you know where there's the overhang?
Oh.
That ugly overhang that is just
Right.
awful. I'm sorry to be, to give my opinion on it,
Right.
but nothing has happened. Where is that money? Where is it going through? Is that part of the money with it's not part of the money for the Esplanade?
No, that technically that's not the Esplanade. That's part of John Finley Walk,
Right,
which is like a link between 2 sections of the Esplanade.
right.
There is a major project which is being planned by DOT to rebuild John Finley Walk from from 81st up towards Gracie Mansion. And I think something may be happening with that overhang. I need to double check on that.
The overhang, it was mostly on top of it that you and I will never see, it's the Brearley girls will see it. Underneath, the big thing they were giving us is what color did we want? Did we want it to be pink or blue or whatever else was the choices of color? So there was some work that was supposed to be done. And I didn't know if they, I hope that the $1 million that they were getting is going to be part of the whole.
Several years ago, I think when they had when they negotiated to get a permit to have that overhang, and I think they rebuilt it in conjunction with that. They made some improvements to that walkway. They added some planters.
I haven't seen any planters there.
Oh, I think they are there, but I remember they did something.
Steve, I'm going to take pictures and show you, and I'll be glad to take pictures and say I was wrong and you were right. I didn't see it, but I go there often and I have not seen plants.
Okay, I granted I could be wrong.
Okay.
But every once in a while, but the key thing here is that there is a huge project which is in the pipeline, which is being done by DOT.
Great.
And I think when we had a presentation on the DOT project, they said that the Brearley area couldn't be fixed until the DOT John Finley Walk portion of it. So I think the two are related.
Okay. And just one other comment. I was very happy to hear, I think it was the Friends of the East River Esplanade got us more garbage pails. When I walked last time, I think it was near Gracie Mansion, they were overflowing on the floor and disgusting. Can they be picked up a little bit more often, or do we need more garbage pails? And why was there so much garbage? What do people do that they fill up the garbage so much? I've never seen the garbage pails along there as full as they were, but they were overflowing.
And this is along John Finley Walk?
Yes, by Gracie Mansion. It was that area.
All right. Well, I know for a fact that we had a crew right there this morning.
No, this wasn't this morning. Maybe it was not yesterday. Monday. It was Monday.
All right. Well, it certainly should have been picked up by now. We should be picking up the litter basically every day in that park.
Yeah. Is it that people are having picnics? And
Oh yeah. There's been for the last 2 years or so, yes, there's been a lot more
Birthday parties and so
well,
on.
whatever. Yeah, people are using the parks to a fairly well because especially when they weren't going to restaurants and they were looking for a place to go to get out of their
Yeah.
apartments.
I've not seen it like this, and it's one of the nicest area of the park where people sit and you get some shade, and it's like the ideal place. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Barbara, Sheena can't be here tonight, but Felice and I can talk to Sheena about it.
Wonderful.
And she's very good about following up on these comments.
Great, thanks.
Okay,
I'm just going to make one announcement. We have a new member of the parks, the ex officio. Trisha had a beautiful little boy. So I don't know if people know.
Oh.
I lose track of days. I think Tuesday. I assume she gave birth Tuesday. Whether it was Monday night or Tuesday, I'm not sure, but I think it was.
Thank you.
That's
Beautiful,
great.
beautiful little boy.
Well, last time I saw her, which is about a month ago, I thought she was going to give birth that day.
She didn't stop working though. She was nonstop. Thanks, Steve, for
All right,
everything.
thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. So when we go to those who haven't commented yet, so Reed, if you don't mind, I skip over you and go to Boaz.
Yes, really quick. Lots of interesting stuff. Thank you, Steve. Regarding Barbara's comment, I think that she's referring to last month. There was a presentation about renovation of the North Meadow Center in Central Park, where, if you know, there is the pickle. There is like
Yes.
So they are closing the public restroom as well over there for the coming year. As part of the renovation.
Yeah, it's part of a renovation. Yeah.
But in parallel, there is starting to have a lot of good noise, in my opinion, about public bathroom in New York City. I don't know if you noticed, if you heard about Mark Levine, there was a rally. He's now presenting, he's trying to push to basically build more public bathrooms. In New York City, and I hope it's going to happen. And I really hope that the community board date will fully support it, because we do need more public bathroom. And I will put the link to the, I think, to the law, to the information about the rally. Anything that Judy and the chairs of this committee can do and support it, it will be great. Thank you. That's all from my end.
Well, listen, I mean, right now, the Parks Department is probably the entity that provides the most public bathrooms in the city of New York. Hundreds, if not thousands of them in our parks and playgrounds. So, I think that should be recognized. We certainly do have public bathrooms, but maybe not enough. But the Parks Department provides them and makes a huge effort and spends a lot of time maintaining them. It's not easy to maintain public bathrooms. I can assure you that. Well, one of our park supervisors is on this call, Lori Knowles. Maybe she could talk about the situation at Carl Schurz.
That would be great. And Will, you have your hand up, which is so unusual. Was there something you wanted to add?
I just didn't want to get missed. I do want to bring up one playground that was not in either Steve or the previous capital requests, the Kovitz playground. It is in the line of where the new ramp for the Marine Transfer Station would be built. And I know that one of the sticking points for moving forward on building that second ramp was funding for Kovitz playground. Steve, do you recall this from conversations? This is pre-pandemic conversations.
Yes. I remember having discussions about this several years back, but I've lost track of what's happening with that plan to build that ramp. So I frankly don't know.
I called about it last week, and as far as I heard, Will, unless you've heard different, the plan so far the ramp isn't moving forward.
Yeah.
So
we as a community could hold their feet to the fire. And I think it's something that while I am not a board member and, you know, I have a certain level of say in things, I think it is something that is worth holding the city's feet to the fire, because that ramp was something that we pushed for. And if the new mayoral administration doesn't prioritize it, we should be up in arms over it.
Well, I
That's
don't think
my opinion.
I think that's either a transportation issue. I don't think the ramp.
Well, it is, but it is a parks
But the-
issue, because that park
funding-
needed to be
Yes,
the
but the
funding for that.
Yeah, so what I was going to say to Felice is we should list that under our capital funding to COVIDs. I mean, I was aware of it because I did make a call about it last week in preparation for this, but I couldn't find that the ramp was going anywhere. So therefore, I didn't think about it. But just in case it does get built, I guess we should list Decovitz as a priority under capital requests.
Well, it'll
Steve, do
never
you
be
have
built if it isn't a priority.
Steve, do you have any idea what's needed to redo Decovitz?
No, we'd have to go back and look at the plans that we were discussing some years ago. But
Well, so
my memory is that it would definitely impact the playground. We would lose.
it was, but part of the park was going to be closed while they did this.
Yeah, but we would end up losing some amount of square footage. We would end up with a smaller playground.
Exactly.
So we would have to rebuild. Maybe we would lose the area that has the swings. And there's some area we were going to lose, but I don't know what it would cost.
I want to say that it was like 2.5 million at the time, but it may have been 4.
Yeah,
Okay, so I would think it would be 4 or 5 million now,
I don't know.
because it's a number of years. So Felice, why don't we put it
Yep, we'll put on
under
this.
capital?
Okay, and should we go to Lori?
Yeah, Laura, you're unmuted. You can.
Oh, hi everyone. Yeah, so I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm still surprised at how much detail Steve ends up remembering about all of these parks. I am, for those who don't know me, on the park supervisor level 2 for District 6, 8, and 15. Report directly to Sheena Kaufman. She's my manager. She can't be joining us this evening, but if there's any concerns, I've already listed a bunch of notes that you guys would like me to discuss with her or take action on. One of the things that you guys brought up was unfortunately, we had some overflowing cans on John Finley Walk. So I'm going to look into what went wrong there. But we do go through there with mobile crews to clean up debris on the daily. There may have been just a large amount of parties or barbecues and things going on. It's just been amazingly crowded, even on midweek nights and in certain areas. Our parks are well loved and well used. Everyone is so excited about the changes that are coming, me included. And every community board meeting I attend, I learn more and more about and get more excited about the potential of what the parks could, how they can change for the better. So primarily what I'm responsible for my team in doing is, so a lot of these things are going to be under future capital improvement, but in the meantime, on every day, we're beautifying and repairing and making safe, the parks, right? Groundskeeping, basic repairs, making sure there's no trip hazards, we get inspected. So through the agency, surprise inspections. So we have to make sure that we are doing everything the best that we can, even if we have to send a lot of staff to pools and some other things that we have to do in our borough. But it's a constant challenge, especially in the summer. But it's something that I very much enjoy. And again, thank you for your your notes that I'm going to bring back to Sheena, and I'm also going to look into that one issue. If there's any other concerns that you would like me to look into that we haven't noted so far, please mention them, and I will look into to see how we dropped the ball if that's what happened.
Okay, I think we do have some other items. Before we get to that, I just want to go back to Rita.
I'm still in the Parks Department, but now I'm out of a park. Steve, are you responsible for the trees on streets? Is the Parks Department?
Yes. Yes.
I have only because I walk the 80s to the 90s a lot. And just by observation, the trees are very old up here. They're magnificent, absolutely magnificent. When they have been cut down, there is a stump. And I understand they cannot get that stump out. I mean, in many instances, the sidewalk is raised because of the roots of the trees that are underneath. My question, and our sidewalks on those side streets are very, very narrow because they have stoops. Is there any way to level those stumps and then pour concrete over it? I know you can't pull the stump out and, you know, you probably will pull down the house, but is there any way, because they're dangerous, it's narrow, it's in a tree pit, and someone's going to hurt themselves. So is there any way that we can get it level enough and pour concrete over it and at least have sidewalk?
Well,
you see where I'm going with this?
oh yeah, number one, you've identified a real issue. Yes, the fact that the tree stumps remain there for a period of time after we've cut down a tree, and mind you, we're only cutting down a tree because that tree is dead or in declining health. We don't just go around cutting down trees.
Right.
But so there's got to be a reason why we took out the tree. Okay, so but we do leave behind a stump, which is can be a bothersome issue. So what the board might want to consider on your expense list is asking that additional funds be allocated for tree stump removal, because that is something that we could always use more money for, so we can get out there and take out those tree stumps. If there's an opportunity to plant a tree, and I hope Marco is listening. Is Marco still on the call? Marco is still here. So if there's an opportunity to plant a tree, we are not going to pave over the tree pit. We're going to. Our hope would always be that we could go back and plant a new tree. It may be that our people go out, they inspect it, and they determine that it's no longer a tenable location, and then we probably. I don't know that we have a budget ourselves to pave over tree pits. That may be something else you might want to advocate for. But our first priority would be to replace to put a new tree into the tree pit.
Because these tree stumps are of trees that are over 100 years old, so the stumps are huge. Yeah,
well, they're granted they're old. I don't know how old they are. But if I had my druthers, I would go back the next day and take out the tree stump. But we don't have that ability, and so we do need we probably do need more money for tree stump removal, which is something that at one point we were getting. That used to be a regular council add-on for a number of years, but and a lot of people in the other boroughs identified that also as an issue. It wasn't such a big issue in Manhattan, but I think it's a legitimate point that you raise.
Thank you.
Rita, can you, when you're out for a walk, identify the location, so when we put in the request, we can. know where it is.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Even if you would have just called it into 311 and asked that the tree stump be removed, that would not be a bad idea.
Okay, will do.
Barbara?
A quick question. Are you in charge of rain gardens?
Well, if they're inside a park or then, which is something that we've been doing more of in conjunction with DEP in recent years, when we do, complete overhauls of parks, we try to include some rain gardens. So there are rain gardens that are now, I guess, a part of our parks inventory.
And is a rain garden a very specific thing? Is it a rain garden because the shrubbery is, the plantings are there, or it's dug a certain way, or?
Well, I think it's, I'm not an expert on this, but the point of the rain garden would be to retain the rainwater. So,
Right.
so it filters down into the soil and does
Right.
not end up in the city sewer system.
Yes, but is any planting, so when my super plants flowers around the tree garden out front, that's not a rain garden, right? That you need something specific to be, or that's not.
I would expect so, yeah. But
Okay.
I'm not, I'm really not, I'm not the person to answer this question.
And who is the environment?
I'd have to find somebody, I'd have to find somebody for you.
Could you do that? Because I'm co-chair of the Environment Committee, and it's one of the things that we're talking about. That would be great. Thank you.
All right.
Barbara,
so
may I
what-
make a suggestion?
So what,
On this issue, we heard this last night. I think you were at the Browning School presentation.
Yep.
Why don't you speak to the architect there?
Well-
He has all the information because that's what they're doing.
No, they're not doing rain gardens. That's
Yes,
different.
they are on the roof.
No,
and in-
that's a blue roof is different from.
it's different, yeah, it's a green, yeah. But so what you want to know, Barbara, is what constitutes a rain garden?
Right.
What do you have to?
Why
do?
are they doing it? And
What do you have to do to actually qualify to be a rain garden?
that's right. And how
Okay.
do they choose the location and so on? But some of it may be out of park. So if you could help, and then maybe somebody else. Thank you.
All right, very good.
So one of the things that I'd like to ask the group, since I don't see any other hands raised right now, on the projects that we have listed, plus Seabury Park, 24 Sycamore Playground, Stanley Isaacs, basketball courts at Carl Schurz, and St. Catherine's Park. Is there a priority that you think should be addressed first if we were prioritizing them?
All right, Felice, before you go there, can I just ask, maybe you no longer need me? If you're now entering into the discussion among the committee members?
Judy?
Yeah, I think we could decide this ourselves. I
Right.
can tell you that St. Catherine's would be last because that's in the middle of a lawsuit.
All right,
So that would
but,
certainly be the last priority.
but you don't mind if I leave you?
No, thank you, Steve. You've been a font of information. We really appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
all right,
Enjoy your evening and the next meeting that you're heading off to.
all right, very good.
Steve.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
And I still see that you got Barry. I forgot to acknowledge that you didn't really get rid of Barry. Okay, very good. Take
He's
care,
a
all.
public member, Steve.
He is a public member numero uno. Take care.
Thank you. So in terms of priorities, I agree with Judy in putting St. Catherine's Park at the bottom. Do folks have a sense of what's a priority in terms of the various parks to add? We've talked about Seabury Park in the discussion, so I think that's probably up there in terms of a priority.
Yes,
ready
and
to-
that's a bigger renovation than some of these other issues, so that's a large item. Um, why don't we just list them the way he gave them to us? Seabury, um, 24 Sycamores, the lower portion of the park, Stanley Isaacs, the hockey rink, the basketball court at
Okay.
Carl Tramway irrigation system, that's really going full speed, and the plants are not being watered that frequently. So Lori, if you're still with us and you could help us out with how the watering on all that new planting is being taken care of. I think the irrigation, which won't cost as much as some of these other projects for Tramway, might move a little further up towards the top. The fountain itself is a project that I've been speaking to the council members about, and that's probably next year's budget. But the irrigation system, maybe we could split them. I don't know. The irrigation system is really important.
Okay, Lori, do you have any update on that? Will, could we unmute Lori?
Yeah, Lori, just look for a button to unmute, please. There you go.
Okay, guys. So can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question was actually twofold in order of importance with going back to what Steve was saying, right? And secondly, your question about Tramway. And I didn't hear it because it kind of faded out in the car. So if you can repeat your question about Tramway, I'll do the best I can to answer it.
The water, it's been planted. Has anybody been watering it? I walked through there today and it looked, the roses and a lot of the greenery, it's starting to dry up. And I really think that the irrigation for that should move up near the top of the list. That's far less expensive, the irrigation, than the fountain part, which was part of the original design of the park. So Lori, do you know, has anyone been watering there?
We actually lost Lori. She's no longer connected.
Well, she's in her car, so that may.
Yeah.
So while we wait for Lori to get back on, Barbara, you have your hand raised?
I'm not sure I understood. Is there enough money for the Esplanade, or should that be there? I consider the Esplanade one of the most important parks because it really spans the whole neighborhood. If you were in the 60s, you probably wouldn't be going to culture. So although I love every one of these parks, the Esplanade, everybody from 59th Street to 125th Street uses the Esplanade.
I think the Esplanade is remaining our number one priority, and I think
Still is okay because there's a lot of work to do.
And I think one of the things we really need to understand is how much money is there, what's funded, what's not funded, where there's still issues along the Esplanade that need to be repaired. So I think that needs to stay on the top. And I've reached out to Carolyn Maloney's office to restart the Esplanade Task Force meetings, just so we can get everybody re-engaged on it.
Just a quick other question, if I'm still not muted. There was a time we talked about, again, having another engineering. It was Carolyn Maloney that gave, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago, the first $1 million for the engineering.
Okay, I think I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. I'm in the mountains.
Okay, and
Barbara, why don't we let Lori?
Sure. Great, thanks, Lori.
Lori, we were asking about the watering at Tramway Park. Would you have any information on that, or could you follow up on it? Well, go ahead, Barbara.
is there money? It sounds like the money is just for the 3 areas that have identified that are really scary. I'm always scared to walk by. I sort of like rush past 94th Street and some of the other areas because there really are large holes. There's no money has been allocated for this engineering report that we've talked about. A new engineering.
That's why we've put the Esplanade as number 1, and why, as Felice has said, we're trying to restart this committee again with the electeds.
Okay, great.
Get back on that. So I think everybody agrees the Esplanade is our number 1
great
priority. I don't think there's any question about that.
Great.
Okay, so let's get back to Lori.
I think we can maybe talk with Lori tomorrow, Felice. I think she's in and out.
Okay, no, sounds good. Rita?
I don't know. Over the years, I've talked to Barry and to about completely went out of my head. It'll come back. God, these senior moments really suck.
So I'm not sure if I can be heard, but I texted you guys.
Come back to me.
The answer to your question.
And what she means is she put in the chat that we cannot water Tramway and staff sent to Gracie. I don't know what that second one means.
Okay, so why don't Felice and I try and give her a call tomorrow and talk to her when we can during the day, get the information, and we'll put it in the minutes.
Rita, you still wanted to say something?
My senior moment has passed.
Okay, so I think that was.
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Okay. The question is that every time we open the paper or Excel is now doing the Papaya King on 3rd Avenue and the Hudson Yards and everything, and we are dying for money for the Esplanade. Does anybody ask the mayor to give back a little bit to the city? Give back and get that Esplanade done. If we don't ask, we don't get. And a lot of the money that went on to the west side and near that park along Riverside Park was asking the builders along that route for money. And here we're being overrun with building. There isn't a street on the Upper East Side that does not have a construction on it. So I don't know how you go about it, but if we don't ask, we're not going to get. Who should we go to ask that this is part of the deal?
Rita, I think we should see if we can formulate this committee again that Felice is talking about and have a meeting, and Parks is part of that meeting, and they bring their people, and we have to find, besides the 3 projects that are in the process of being done, we have to find out what other spots need to be done. They have to walk the Esplanade. The engineers have to look at it and tell us. And then when we get a handle on X dollars, I think you're absolutely right. That's when we start making phone calls to people and having nice little chats with them and see if we can't get them to help us support funding the Esplanade.
Yeah,
but the first thing they're going to ask is, where do you need it for and how much? And we don't have that answer yet.
That is perfectly true. But the other part is that all builders I don't know why I singled out Extell because they're on every street. All builders who are building these mammoth skyscrapers and things, they don't put anything back into the city other than money for other things. And if we don't ask for this money, you're building this building, what are you giving us? What are you giving us for putting us under construction for years?
No, Rita, you're absolutely right. But first, I think we have to get the information before we can do that. And
You're right. We should have.
I have no problem doing that. We did that. That's how we got the first parts of Andrew Haswell Green built, by going hat in hand and asking for money. And I have no problem doing that now. But first, we have to have the facts before we can do that.
Okay.
But your idea is 100% on target.
Great. So should we move on to, I think we're done with the capital project description. Should we move on to old business and new business? Judy,
Well,
couldn't.
Felice, do we need to pass a resolution or no? We can just take just the minutes and that's good enough for you for the budget? Will's got his thumbs up, so we don't.
Wilson,
Yeah,
yes,
you don't need to pass a resolution.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Felice.
I was going to say for old business and new business, Judy, you were going to provide the updates and Sheena couldn't.
Oh, yes, I had some things to, well, some of it Steve covered. First, for those of you that might not know, the temporary pedestrian ramp on East 71st Street was finished by the Kellen Tower. So now you can pass there on the Esplanade at 71st Street. In the fall, the East Midtown Partnership is going to get a group of people together from Roosevelt Island and from the 60s and try and start a Friends of group for Tramway Park. We hope that will be successful. The Friends of the East River Esplanade sent a notice today, and I don't know if everybody got it, but on August 15th from 6 to 8 p.m., Nick Green Jazz Quartet will have live music at the pavilion. So weather permitting. So we'll put all of this in our minutes so that you can attend if you want, as it's on the river, you're outside. It's really very nice. Now through August 31st, at St. Catherine's Park was the park selected this year by the 19th precinct for Day of Play. So from 4 to 7 until August 31st, the youth coordinator officer and other police officers will be out in the ball field with basketball, football, soccer, jump rope, hula hoop, checkers, chess, dominoes, whatever the kids want to do. I went yesterday and it was so exceedingly hot by the time I got there that there were only a few kids there. The chess and checkers were a big hit. But hopefully the weather will be a little cooler on the following Wednesdays so that people will be able to attend. So, oh, and I guess the most important thing that I didn't mention and that Steve didn't mention is that Parks has agreed to make a temporary dog run at Rupert Park, Rita. So you'll be very happy to know Steve is in the process of making signs, and I'm sure Sheena will get them put up. I've been talking to Sheena about the fencing and the gate issue and all of that. So I don't know. The fellow who was doing the signs was on vacation, but if I heard Steve right today, he'll be back tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have the signage by next week, pointing people to the temporary area for dog runs where that dogs can be unleashed. And Felice, do you remember the group? Or Barry, maybe you remember the group. Aliana was the gal running it.
Upper East Side Dog Collective.
Right. And they've been on our case about that. So Parks has finally agreed to this until I think it'll make the use of the park much nicer for anybody else if the dogs are in one area and not all over the park, which is what Barry and I experienced when we were at the park one Saturday. They were just all over the place. So I think this is a real plus.
And I agree. I have seen that dogs have completely taken over the entire park.
And the only other thing that I wanted to say, just to let the committee know, Felice and I are going to put a letter together and thank Julie Menon and the council member for their great support now of Rupert Park for all the money that they gave. And we will not be meeting in August, but in September, our guest speaker will be Deputy Inspector William Gallagher from the Central Park Precinct, and he will tell us a little bit about what they're doing and what's happening in Central Park. And if we have time, Felice and I have talked about having the different conservancies come. So maybe we'll be able to have the new executive director of Friends of the Esplanade, Jean Kim, introduce herself and speak for a few minutes also in September. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Judy. And I realized that Jean sent over an email with a couple of capital requests for along the Esplanade, so we can forward those over to Steve as well, and Sheena, and just talk about or some of the maintenance issues that need to be addressed. Thank you, Judy. Barbara, or actually we haven't heard from Mubin yet. So if we can just hear from Mubin and then we can go to you, Barbara.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say hello. I really didn't have a whole lot to announce, but I just wanted to say, Judy, wonderful news on the dog run. I know we had an event recently. The main purpose of my joining in was to thank all of you. So many of you came from Community Court 8, and we really, really appreciate your support. It was really a very successful musical event, and we really enjoyed seeing the community and the neighborhood engage at the event. But I'm really thrilled to hear about the dog run because there was confusion. The dog collective was there for a short while, and while they were there, things were really great. But when they left, people started taking the dogs to the southeast quadrant, and even though we were redirecting them, I think the fencing is what confused them, because they have fencing in the southeast quadrant, and they insisted, both of these are dog runs, and we don't have any authority to navigate them one way or the other than just share our information. So that's good news. But again, thank you so much for so many of you showing up. We really loved having you. A huge shout out to Rita, who hasn't missed a single event. So Rita, we really appreciate it. And thank you for all your support all these years. And we don't have anything till October. In October, we will have the next planting for the park.
Okay, so you can announce it at our September meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much.
Barbara?
Okay. Naveen, this is what I was going to say. I'm sure it was my fault, but I got an email late to say, do you want to come to this thing today? Can we announce it more? I don't know. Will, was it in your newsletter that I missed, or how did people know about it?
What event are you talking about?
The thing that was at Rupert Park, Naveen was talking about, the musical event that was there.
It was in our newsletter.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I do read it, but I missed it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed it, Naveen. You've done unbelievable work there. Thank you. So next time I'm going to mark it down quickly. I'm going to look and mark it down.
And finally, Rita?
I didn't see that Mubin was on. Peggy and I went to that event. It was phenomenal. absolutely phenomenal. That park was jumping. And as people came in with a dog to let it go free, they really didn't know. The music was incredible. I can't begin to tell you the work that the Muslim volunteers did. It was absolutely wonderful, and people were dancing. I can only imagine what it will be like when we have a new park. So Mubin, thank you, and please extend my thanks to your group. You did unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And next is Barry. I hope I know what your question or comment is going to be.
Oh, you most certainly do. Move to adjourn.
Is there a
As
second?
a public member, I owe it to you.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.